So this is a story that actually started up, I think it was a week or so ago. You have a school in the UK, it's predominantly Muslim, and they're upset because the school curriculum is pushing LGBTQ, transgender, homosexuality, like education. Like I don't want to make it seem like they're pushing kids to be these things, but they're teaching them. And some parents have been complaining, that their kids are really young. They're only like 7 years old. Why are they being taught this? And I think it's really fascinating because the Muslim community, it's a religious community. It's an Abrahamic religious community. I don't know why many people on the identitarian left, intersectionals, would think that you can take an Abrahamic religion, devout, and mix it with the LGBT community. I mean, for the longest time in the U.S., it was the evangelical right that were at odds with a lot of the LGBT, activists. So let's read the story because I got some other news too, but we will read through this one first. Education, not indoctrination. Muslim parents lead group of 300 in protest outside school gates against equality lessons on homosexuality and gender. More than 300 parents and children gathered outside a primary school yesterday to protest against lessons on homosexuality and gender. Some Muslim demonstrators said they would rather leave the UK than allow their children to continue attending Parkfield Community School in Birmingham. Pupils were kept out of lessons for the first hour of the day. Some joined in with chants and held placards reading "Education, not indoctrination." One child carried a handwritten sign which said, "Let kids be kids." And we can see this one, "Respect and be respected." They've blurred the faces of many people, but look at this. This is huge. And it's interesting they're saying that they would rather leave the UK than have their kids be subjected to this. I gotta say, that's pretty antithetical to the intersectional left, right? You need to do everything to accommodate the intersection of these varying, identities. And you're effectively pushing something that's causing such distress to these people. They want to leave the country. That's kind of weird. It's also kind of funny that the most effective thing to get these people to leave the country is not like the right, rallying against them, or not these people specifically, but more extremists. It's literally the left pushing LGBTQ education and things like that. So this photo says, some Muslim demonstrators said they would rather leave the UK than allow their children to continue attending Parkfield Community School in Birmingham. Parkfield Community School has said it wants pupils to be accepting and welcome to anybody. And then, wow. So one of the reasons I wanted to just bring the story back up again is the initial story when I made a video about it. The protests look relatively small, but now it looks like they've gotten pretty large, and it's been going on for a few weeks. We can see a ton of photos here. No indoctrination, my child, my right, exploiting children's innocence. Who could have ever suspected this is what's going to happen? This sign says, this sign, which I don't want to read, is a man saying that, say no to the promoting of, he's advocating against LGBT and homosexuality ways of life to our children. I mean, look, these people, they look like they're devout religious. I got to say, this is not surprising in the least bit. The protest comes amid a campaign against lessons on equality at the school, with parents in the predominantly Muslim area saying they promote homosexuality. Christian evangelists joined them to protest yesterday in a show of solidarity. That's the point I'm making. It's mind-blowing to me that you have people in the U.S., the intersectionals, aligning with devout Abrahamic religious folk on these issues, especially when you can see in the UK, Christian evangelicals have joined the Muslims. Parents' anger is aimed at the school's assistant head, Andrew Moffat, who was behind the No Outsiders lessons. He created the scheme to teach children about the Equality Act and British values. Pupils at the school rated outstanding by Ofsted have 5 of these lessons a year covering areas outlined in the Act: age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, pregnancy or maternity, race, religion or belief, sex and sexual orientation. The program was first piloted at the school in 2014 and is now also taught at dozens of other schools in the country. Mr. Moffat, who is in a civil partnership, was made an MBE for services to equality and diversity in education in 2017. He is currently shortlisted for a World's Best Teacher Award. Wow, these protests, they look like they're getting big. He resigned from a previous teaching post at another school after a row with Christian parents over lessons challenging homophobia, and is now facing even more vocal complaints from parents at Parkfield, where 98% of the 750 pupils are said to be from an Islamic background. And so it looks like this is the individual. This photo, I believe, is from the previous story, but they've actually got some video of the protest here. And it looks like the protest. So this was one of the photos. I believe this is from one of the earlier stories. And you can see just how big this has gotten. Protester Miriam Ahmed, whose 4-year-old daughter attends the school, has organized a petition against the No Outsiders Project. She said yesterday, "What they are teaching is not right. They are too young. There are 9 parts of the act, and they only seem to be focusing on one, homosexuality, and that is wrong. They need to have an ethos which reflects the area. It's not just because we are Muslims. There are Christians here too. We don't have a vendetta against homosexuals, and we respect the act. We respect that Mr. Moffat is gay, and we are happy for him to teach." She said she would consider taking her daughter out of the school full-time if the lessons continued, claiming children were being affected emotionally and psychologically. One father, whose 6-year-old daughter attends the school, said his wife wanted to leave the country rather than let her daughter attend the lessons. The man, who did not want to be named, said, "My daughter has been asking questions my wife did not know how to answer." More photos. "She is too young for this. A family who live near me already returned to Pakistan because of it." This is, wow, completely antithetical to intersectionality. They are pushing an education a curriculum that's actually driving away migrants. Some of the protesters said Islam did not accept homosexuality, while others said they were not against it, but accused the teacher of promoting personal beliefs. Mr. Moffat said he tried to meet the parents, but stopped when they became personal and aggressive. He has described receiving threats from parents online. He told the BBC, "I have felt very threatened. It's been a challenging couple of weeks. However, what keeps me going is support from the school, which is absolutely brilliant, Ofsted and the city council. Currently, year 5 children aged 9 and 10 are taught about puberty and reproduction. Many under 11s currently learn about relationships in personal, social, health, economic classes, but this is not mandatory. The government is, however, bringing in new compulsory relationship education, which will include teaching tolerance of same-sex couples and transgender people. Parkfield Community School has said it wants pupils to be accepting and to welcome anybody. In a statement, it said it was disappointed by the protest, but had no plans to drop the successful No Outsiders program. Now, here's the important thing. We've heard several stories about people. Recently, an individual was arrested for misgendering someone on Twitter. We've also heard about people being called and interrogated over misgendering. Well, hold on. You've got people out here holding up these signs, right, saying no to promoting LGBT. Are these people going to be arrested and charged for malicious communication? Is the question I would ask. But I will say this. The UK, in my opinion, has fallen into some really weird, backwards... It's getting downright weird, right? We have this other story, also from the Daily Mail. Men can be called mothers, as it's no longer a gender-specific term. It is. Lawyers claim as transgender man who gave birth after transitioning from a woman fights to be named the father on a birth certificate. The word mother is no longer a gender-specific term, government lawyers told the High Court yesterday. Ben Jaffe, QC, acting for the Department of Health, made the claim during a court hearing as a female-to-male parent attempted to be registered as the father of his child, despite giving birth to the baby. Arguing against the claim, Mr. Jaffe told the Family Division of the High Court in London that being a mother is no longer necessarily a gender term. A man can be, and in this case, is a mother. A single parent, referred to only as TT, was born a woman but now lives as a man after undergoing surgery. However, the court heard he was able to get pregnant and give birth to his child, known only as YY. TT has legally become a man by the time the child was born, but a registrar told him the law requires the individual who gives birth to a child to be registered as the mother. He has now taken legal action and says forcing him to register as the mother breaches his human right to respect for a private and family life. If the legal bid is successful, the child would be the first to have no legally recognized mother. Mr. Jaffe said that TT had sincere and legitimate objectives, but that if successful, his case would rip up the current regime for registering births. Judgment was reserved for a later date. Well, it seems like the UK is in a really strange position. The UK is kind of in the mix. I'm sorry, the US is not completely to where the UK is on these issues. But listen, there's a biological, scientific reason for a difference in gender and registering someone as male or female. So we recently produced for Subverse this video. It's called The Reality of Transgender and Gender Science. And we did an interview with Dr. Deborah So. One of the most important issues here in the video is very early on, we make reference to the Health Revitalization Act of 1993. So this act basically said women must be included in clinical trials for medication because men and women are biologically different. Okay. So I understand if people want documents to reflect things, but listen, mother refers to the person giving birth to the child. And so we've got this political issue now affecting physical reality, which is going to make things pretty complicated. If somebody, you know, maybe the society will adapt to it. I don't know, but I'll say this. By all means, argue with the court. The UK, you guys do you. You guys do you. We're doing things a little different, but maybe we'll get to the same point. I don't know. The point is, eventually you have to recognize intersectionality is pitting these different groups against each other, and it's not going to work, plain and simple. We're going to start running into roadblocks having to do with medical treatments, and now we're seeing Muslims are protesting the LGBTQ curriculum. So anyway, stick around. My main video will be on the youtube.com/timcast at 4 p.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you then.